So first off, thanks for coming. We appreciate you coming here and taking the time to speak with us about this. I know that recently you just went back to Yemen after 5 years since last being there. So I guess my first question to you is, what changes did you notice when you did return to Yemen, and how was returning to your home country kind of different from when you were growing up there?
Yeah, before returning to Yemen, I was kind of trapped here in America for 4 years. And the reason why is my student visa has expired, and because of Trump's new executive order back then in 2016, it made it even more impossible for me to return, because if I go back, I'm not allowed back here. But then magically I got the green card through some really difficult process, and so I returned and saw my family and my mom. We reunited, and it shocked me how life has changed within the 4 years that I left the country, because the people are still the same. I still found my friends, my neighbors are the same. Places that I used to go to are still the same, but there's something that within people's hearts that have gone so different. And that is the effect of war. Friends who used to give me hope back in the day, now they're so depressed, and life for them is just a matter of time. When are we gonna be done with this life? So I felt so bad that I left my family and friends living this really bad situation, and I'm here enjoying my life, even though I didn't, because I was always thinking about them. War has changed a lot in my country, in Yemen, and more importantly, it changed people's hearts and how they look at life.
Thank you for sharing that. And obviously, life in war often contradicts people's opinions about war. So how would you say the opinions of Yemenis kind of living in Yemen contrast that of the global community?
People in Yemen feel like they've been betrayed by the whole world, and by like the organizations that claim to be fighting for them, for human rights and for ending conflicts and wars. People from here, from outside Yemen, when they look at Yemen, especially countries politically speaking, it's a matter of interest, and looking at it as a piece of cake, and how would they divide that cake between them? And we know that it's a proxy war. Iran and Saudi Arabia have been fighting in our land for a while, and they chose it to be their battlefield, unfortunately. So Yemenis now, when I spoke to them, when I returned, they gave up on the international community to do something for them. And no matter how many resolutions the UN puts out, or the US or UK or European Union talking about trying to end the war in Yemen, they're not believing any word of that.
Okay. I mean, that kind of segues into the next question, which is, obviously, with the world so globalized, everyone's kind of entangled with other countries' affairs. So, I mean, how do you feel about like the continuous foreign intervention in Yemen, and the state of human rights for Yemenis, and like how those two kind of go together?
We all know that Yemen would have never been in this situation if the countries that got involved in the war didn't get involved, especially Saudi Arabia and Iran. And unfortunately, both of them are claiming to be supporting the Yemeni people, but in fact, they're dividing them up even more. People were so close to each other, no matter the differences. So we all now in Yemen, including me, blame the foreign interventions in making the situation in Yemen even way worse than it was after the revolution in 2011.
Yeah, it's I completely understand that. And I think we all feel a certain type of way about that. I did want to ask, with more specificity towards human rights abuses, because they do say that the war in Yemen has been like the largest humanitarian crisis. Have you witnessed any child soldier recruitment or heard about that? And do you know of any efforts within the Yemeni community over there that's trying to combat this issue?
Yeah, this specific topic is what had got me to focus on a specific path in my life. People have gotten way violent than they were before in terms of using guns and firearms wherever they go. I found a kid that is not even 5 years old when I was praying in the mosque in the capital city, Sana'a, and he was holding a rifle that is longer than him. He was dragging it and it can't touch the floor. And I was like, and his dad was right next to him because he was holding his hand, and I was looking at him. I was like, I'm not blaming the child because he doesn't know. I'm blaming his dad. Do you really think that he knows what he's doing right now? Or you're just putting this in his brain at this young age that it's okay to use this rifle, when we actually now in Yemen need people to be more educated and rebuild the country that has been destroyed. So yes, I've seen people, especially young kids, join the conflict.
So then, kind of moving on from that, with the current military stalemate in Yemen, like how do you feel like that's going to be affecting Yemeni citizens there as it stands? Do you think it's going to help them out, or do you think it's not really doing much for them?
The war has been going on for 5 years, and I believe that Yemenis will not come to an end for this war unless they actually come together and forget about their differences and about the past and try to accept each other and compromise a little to find a peace that will lead the country to prosperity.
How do you feel about your experience as a Yemeni in America, and what would you want others to know about that experience?
Leaving war and trying to seek refuge in another country, as you said, it's start another war, which is an internal war that trying to find some kind of a place that you can consider home, but unfortunately you won't, because no matter how much, especially if you were born and raised in that country, you're still somehow connected to it and its people, and no matter how much time you spend out of that place, you still feel like you have something to go back for.
Obviously, the media portrayal of conflict, particularly in the Middle East, often accentuate one aspect of the reality. So what do you want others to know about the Yemen war, or about Yemenis as a whole?
Definitely, the media has been focusing on the negative part of this conflict and trying to actually report on how many people have gotten killed or buildings have gotten destroyed and all that. And they're not actually contributing to finding a solution and trying to bring people together or bridging the gaps between those people. So, yes, people in Yemen are trying to resist, and no matter what, trying to not give up. But I wonder how much can they actually resist, and how much can they hold on unto this little piece of hope that they still have for this war to be to come to an end. So I pray for the war to an end, pray for the people to come together, pray for the world to actually care about the people and not just trying to use them as news headlines and just some collateral damage that they try to make news with. So, and I ask my friends and people who are watching this to actually educate themselves more about the conflict there, and reach out to the people who they know that they're struggling with wars, not just from Yemen, any other country. There are a lot of people around us that if we talk to them and reach out to them, we're gonna know that how much they've dealt with in their lives and how much help they need to actually feel that they're surrounded with a smaller community after they left their countries. So yeah,
No.
I hope for this to happen.
No, thank you for sharing all of that. That was like a lot, and like I really hope like this video can actually like teach people about